So if you recall my previous reaction video, I was pretty damn confused about the next confirmed death battle being Spider-Man vs Deku. Extremely based on the team to not call it Miles Morales vs Deku, by the way. Not because it's the first time I've heard of this matchup, far from it. I just didn't expect it to happen before the last season started airing, before Beyond the Spider-Verse, or so close to what's potentially the best My Hero Academia episode. It turns out the team is currently working on multiple episodes at once, and whichever is ready first, that's the next one they're gonna drop, instead of having pre-established lineups like the pre-Kickstarted era. My working theory is that they will likely work on this episode and Shiga Ito at the same time, which is amazing news given the sheer peakness of that episode. And my personal hype rose even more when I heard that the one writing this episode also did my favorite one in the show's history. So between versus wiki terms being used as slurs, previous combatants giving Izuku and Miles some words of advice, and everyone coming together to agree how funny it is that Hitlerite Nuxtaku has to choose between rooting for Deku or a minority, this has been a pretty entertaining waiting period so far, but not before delving into what my autistic ass loves rambling about the most when it comes to versus matchups. Connections. Academically gifted yet unassuming young men with overbearing parents, who end up inheriting great power shared with a superhero idol, carrying the torch as their successors with low budget costumes because that's all they could afford at the time before upgrading after their mentors stepped down for the mantle. Besides the standard power set of the former, they also inherit extra abilities unique to them, on top of a lightning aesthetic. They also share a female friend slash love interest with a black, white and pink color scheme, got antagonized by people who don't think they deserve the newly acquired mantle, fight an archenemy that went from nobody to nightmare, and in a meta sense, they both got massively inspired by Peter Parker's Spider-Man in one way or the other. Pretty good connections, clear to both fans and mainstream audiences alike, and with just as much mainstream hype potential carried by the latter. Also, fun fact, this is the third successor themed episode. This is a matchup featuring a comic book character, so in case you're wondering if Miles is one of those superheroes that would have a clean-cut power level, if not for the one time he punched Lester the Multiverse Smasher in one panel from 2008, you would be correct. Here we have Miles with a Captain Universe power-up. Here we have Miles punching Null the god of symbiotes. Here we have his Venom Blast being able to affect the multiverse level threat Blackheart. And here we have Miles getting into fisticuffs with the motherfucking Greek gods. Yeah, so clean cut winner, no? No. This is non-standard, Null was left unfazed right after, Blackheart needed multiple Venom Blasts for Miles to physically arm him, and the old Olympus thing is honestly that are yet to come out by the time this episode will drop, which makes for some devious timing on Marvel's editorial part. Street level Marvel characters have this funny thing where they kinda scale all over the place in comics, like can Spider-Man tank an explosion able to sink Atlantis, or does he need to worry about bullets? Is the Juggernaut empowered by a cosmic demon, or can he be slowed down by anything of earthly origin? This is why power scaling goobers like me have something called outliers, in which there's clearly something so outlandish and beyond what's normal for the character that it shouldn't really be taken seriously. And they didn't scale Batman to him kicking the Spectre, Daredevil to withstanding attacks from the Hulk, Captain America didn't get the Mjolnir, Batman didn't get the Green Lantern ring, they never gave Heralds scaling to symbiotes when they did have it, so I don't think they're gonna give the outliers for Miles. I will say though, Miles' Venom Blast affecting Blackheart, a symbiote dragon, and Fin Fang Foom all showcase that this itsy bitsy spider can sting way beyond his weight class, so I will take that into consideration when we get to the power scaly side of things, which will be right about now actually. Strength and durability. Ever since I started making YouTube videos, there's a handful of creation I can confidently say I am proud of posting. My prediction video for Shigaraki vs Maito was already high on that list, but even more so now, I can just recycle multiple clips from that one since Shigaraki and Deku have similar if not the same quirks, so if my mic quality ranges in the video, that's because I'm using recycled footage. Sorry. Deku already got the multi-continental ranges when I made that video, but he solidified his spot in that area thanks to the new movie, You Are Next. And yes, all movies are canon, this is not Five Nights at Freddy's, in which an Italian weirdo cosplays as an evil All Might, which to Deku might as well be a crime against humanity, so he did this. We'll literally never see Dark Might again after this, by the way. He got a worse fate than the in-universe genocidal maniac. Anyway, that has been calculated to be around 11.78 petatons of TNT, aka this number shown on screen of TNT, with its full power by the end of the final arc being estimated to be as high as 1.55 exatons of TNT, or 1550 followed by 15 zeros, aka over a quadrillion of TNT, 15 zeros, all still multi-continental. Somehow. Miles scales to Peter, who got caught in an explosion that would destroy New York, which is 10 megatons of TNT or 10 million tons of TNT. Morales himself survived twice as big of an explosion in the comics, putting him at 19 megatons. Insomniac Miles survived a null-form reactor explosion from energy that would have fueled Harlem for half a millennium, giving us energy worth of 40 megatons. The biggest feat I can attribute to Miles himself without relying on outliers or questionable chain scaling is fittingly enough the moment that kickstarted his journey as Spider-Man, the death of his Peter Parker. This explosion right here has been calculated to be around 3.5 gigatons of TNT, aka large island level. With all that being said, Izuku currently ranges anywhere between, oh god, 5,000 to 3 billion times stronger than Spidey. You know, it's not as funny when the one on the receiving end is not an irredeemable piece of shit. To be fair, you can probably move things around and interpret stuff so that they both get to multi-continental, if not nearly planetary levels of power, but when it comes to what's the most consistent, I'm sorry, Deku simply takes physical strength and durability, even by highballing Miles. Let's ignore the fact that the latter doesn't react well to large shockwave attacks, because he's truly gonna embody that meme phase otherwise. Speed. Strength doesn't mean much if you can't hit your opponent, you know? In my previous video I said both Shigaraki and Deku are just below the speed of light for some reason, but honestly after Shigahito released I realized that if you can react to lasers, you're pretty much as fast as them, if not more. So let's put Deku at relativistic / faster than light. How much? Let's explore it. Final War Deku can move so fast that not even Shigi himself can perceive him, and he reacted to Lady Naga's bullets in ways that have been calculated as 5.4 times the speed of light, with one of his quirks, Gear Shift, being placed around 14C, aka 14 times the speed of light. Peter Parker Spider-Man, which Miles again should scale to, dodges lasers on the regular, either beams of light or the radio waves level fast Quicksilver, putting him at 9 times the speed of light. Other characters that Miles should scale to, like Cyclops and Daredevil, can react to stuff on the nanosecond level radius, which would put them anywhere between 3 to 6 times the speed of light. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that these numbers are close enough to call this category a tie, at least when it comes to reaction speed. There's a certain something in the X category that's gonna make this part, let's say, difficult to talk about, but we'll get there when we get there. Equipment. With great power comes great fashion sense. Most of the time. Costume Zeta is a 6th iteration of Deku's hero costume. This bad boy comes with improved arm bracers and iron soles to support his arms and legs, aka his go-to weapons. Gran Torino's cape being used as a scarf is both touching and stylish. The iron soles absorb and redistribute the kinetic energy out to increase the strength of Izuku's kicks, and the gloves allow Deku to focus and aim bursts of air created by flicking his fingers. Finally, the mid and full gauntlet allows Deku to fully use One for All at higher percentages without worrying about damaging his body. Web shooters. Like any proper Spidey, Miles comes equipped with webs that allow him to swing, sling and throw targets around, or shutting them up entirely. His comic book self was recently blessed with nothing short of a vibranium suit from Black Panther. It absorbs and redistributes damage through kinetic energy, although this is something All Might himself countered as easily as Season 1 with the no moves. but it still should protect Miles from most fatal injuries. On top of giving Miles new tricks like vibranium-laced webbing, the capacity to keep up with his Venom Blast for longer, and redirect his energy for a Super Saiyan-esque power-up. From his PlayStation self, Miles comes with all kinds of hacking expertise and funky technology, like gadgets that emit a paralyzing ringing sound, or a powerful wave of gravity that absorbs faults like a mini black hole. On the topic of thinking with portals, during Spider-Man 2016 issue 12, Miles got hold of a dimensional travel watch, enabling him to, you guess it, travel across the multiverse. So they both come with suits able to redistribute kinetic energy and channel their powers more efficiently. But I believe that Miles' gadgets, which play with senses at worst and allow him to teleport, if not Angstorm leaving Deku somewhere else at best, definitely give him the edge here. Agility. Both of these fellas love to jump and swing around on some parkour type of timing. But who does it better? Well, Miles is a spider person who outmaneuvered an entire army of spider people, but he is also mostly limited to swinging, wall crawling and gliding. In contrast, Deku can straight up float and fly, on top of running and leaping faster than Miles could physically swing, the latter requiring a good amount of momentum to build up and generate speeds that don't even break the sound barrier. They both lean towards a defensive combat approach, but Miles is more keen on evasion and misdirection to gain the upper end, while Deku is more strategic, meaning that he would eventually catch up to Miles' fighting style the longer the battle goes on. So overall, it's so pretty damn close, I'm also gonna call this a tie. Stamina. While Deku does have the bad habit to injure himself the more he uses his own powers, causing him to indeed tire out faster, not only did he learn to better handle this issue over time, but during the Vigilante arc, he spent the entire first part of the war working non-stop with barely any food or sleep, while suffering from wounds. Miles' stamina is no slouch, but I don't quite see him pull this off for days on end in the same extent that the new Symbol of Peace did. Intelligence. Deku's character is defined for his ability to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of any power he comes across, quickly developing counters on the fly, in no small part thanks to him being a massive superhero nerd. His exceptional skills as a strategist allow him to win the battle trial, the USJ incident, and rescue lives during the Vanguard Squad invasion and the Camino incident. A quick learner who managed to figure out most of One-For-All's mechanism and limitations in a short time frame, channeling his creativity to create mostly new moves and techniques instead of just copying his mentors. Even Momo, the smartest student in his class, looks up to him as reference. Whether it's academical prowess or hacking skills, Miles is no slouch in the intelligence department, and he can easily be called a genius across most situations. He's a great artist, excels in physics, multiverse travel, improvised a plan to outflank an entire army of spider veterans, and use a piece of 2099 technology that sends individuals across the multiverse with no prior knowledge. Great stuff, but as you probably guessed by now, this is mostly book smart stuff instead of street smarts. If this was a pop quiz and the topic was anything but superheroes, I can easily see Miles taking this. Unfortunately, battle IQ here is king, and Deku is the one who just so happens to wear the crown. Skills and experience is a whole other category, however. Miles has fought a vastly larger variety of foes, from aliens to cyborgs, monsters, and most recently gods. He got thrown into the spider business at an even younger age than Peter, and since then he kinda went through everything, from Secret Wars, being turned into a vampire, befriending living cartoons, and becoming a freaking Avenger. In terms of training, he was mentored by Spider-Man, who fought living martial arts encyclopedia Taskmaster, the Avengers, and Black Panther himself. This is not to say that Deku is a slouch in this department, not even close. He definitely trained more, quantitatively speaking, but Miles beats him in the quality of his training. You can say that Deku can rely on the counsel of experienced superior souls in his head, all of them being veterans, but they don't really pass their experience onto him, only their powers, but even they are constantly amazed by Deku's outside-the-box thinking when it comes to using them. Miles takes an evident edge here, powers and X. On top of being able to do whatever a spider can, Miles comes with some extra stuff of his own. like his invisibility and electric powers. He recently got hold of the latter so well that he can now make electricity constructs, like this sweet sword right here, electric webs, electric punches, electric jumps, and most famously his Venom Blast, which can do anything between destroy technology, confuse, incapacitate, or stop the art of anyone who happens to have a nervous system. I think, therefore, I will be stung. Not even demons or giants can resist it. And it will be particularly effective if you happen to be a quote, genetically altered being. Like say, someone whose superpowers are literally an in-universe mutation. You also can't forget the good old spider sense, which evolved from a mental alarm of incoming danger into something so powerful in the comics that it allows you to think of various outcomes for each move and see the invisible. Not touch the untouchable though. Still on the topic of comic book buffs, Miles recently found out to be the herald of Anansi, the trickster spider god from African mythology, who watches over Miles. And by watching over, I do literally mean he's kinda just a spectator who lets Miles do his thing for the most part, never really giving him any combat advice, nor does he offer any Khonshu, Moon Knight or Sukuna Yuji type of power-ups or body swaps for Spidey either. Which is surprising given how shonen comic book Miles has gotten in recent years, a detail that makes this matchup weirdly poetic in a way. The anime character was inspired by Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was inspired by the anime characters now. It's a whole thing. True to his initially shy nature, Deku can use his smoke screen to generate a cloud of purple smoke from his body, allowing for a ninja exit. And true to his Spider-Man inspiration, Deku comes with a sense of his own, danger sense, which allows him to detect threats in his surroundings in a very head-hacky inducing way depending on the severity of such threat. Also, it will not activate if the enemy lacks any actually evil intent. Plus, considerably strong emotions will kinda overwhelm it. So with both Deku and Miles having options to enter stealth mode, but also being able to detect stealth attacks anyway, I'm gonna say they kinda even each other out in this category. Like, come on, Deku has been hanging out with a classmate who's always invisible, like 24/7, and the author decided to wait until she wasn't a minor to finally give her some clothes. That's a whole thing. Anyway, please give us a scene of the senses alerting each other, like when Miles first met Peter. Let's talk about the third spider similarity Deku brings to the table. Black Whip. The squirk allows Izuku to generate black energy tendrils from anywhere in his body, hands, mouth, you name it, which allow him to grab things and people from a distance. He can also mold it into a chain, use it as a barrier, or do this. I think all of the memes about Deku being a crybaby, weakling, cuckold and such kinda make people forget that this boy is canonically fucking insane. Okay, so let's pretend Venom Blast is enough to paralyze the new symbol of peace. Deku would still be able to use a Black Whip technique called Overlay, in which he wraps it all over his body for an extra layer of armor, and he proceeds to puppeteer his muscles, organs and cells like a messed up flesh marionette just to keep going, and looking like an absolute nightmare while doing it. Even Shigaraki, the villain he was fighting, had trouble believing that this is what the main hero currently looks like now. Like, this interaction between their powers is the one scene that I would be really disappointed if they didn't do in the animation. Like, come on, it's such a clever yet simple combination of their powers, display of Deku's creativity, and just how raw this little dude can get sometimes. Black Whip beats Miles' web shooters every day of the week, by the way. Yet another Deku kinda shares with Miles, man, their connection list should include the power sets too, comes in the form of the quirk called Fa Jin, which allows Izuku to store kinetic energy and release it in an explosive burst. Exactly like Vibranium, except it's a genetically superpower instead of a costume, so Miles is at a greater risk of losing that. Saving the craziest for last, Deku also possesses a quirk called Gear Shift, which, I shit you not, grants the user control over the speed of anything he touches, including himself on a cellular level. So accelerate his own speed, slowing others to a halt, and as the impact of his own strikes are all cards on the table. Due to its unusual nature, Deku kinda twists his power like Ben 10 treated Alien X before mastering it, you know, as a last resort. This is why I previously mentioned that comparing the speeds gets tricky as soon as you get into the Axis side of things, because there's nothing in Miles' arsenal that counters control over the laws of physics. He may be an expert on the subject, but as soon as Gear Shift pops up, expect this reaction.
That thing does not obey the laws of physics at all.
So even if you agree with Miles' higher speed ends because, well, I don't know, he wants to get Target Nova who travels interstellar distances, Deku still has the means to nullify any speed gap between the two. And since this works on a cellular level, that means that even the spider's sense, which sends electric currents all over his body, would also be delayed. However, this cannot be done without physical contact, which would WhatsApp endanger Deku to getting Venom blasted, if not for the fact that Deku has tanked electricity from much bigger lightning blasts before. And when all else fails, Nightmare Deku. Another win coin Deku has, which I wanna mention solely for the sake of completion, is that he can violently transfer all of his quirk into Miles' soul, damaging his body in return. So imagine Anansi chilling in Miles' subconscious, then he sees all the messages flowing in like, "Who are you people?" This would leave Deku powerless, and I don't see why he would even need to do this option, but it does remain an insta-win option regardless. So yeah, Deku takes the edge in powers, X, and overall reliable win coins. Conclusions. I hope my attempts to make this fight sound as fair as possible came across in organic fashion, because trust me, I love this matchup, but like, what the fuck can Miles do? Like, Deku is anywhere between thousands to billions times stronger, far surpasses him in stamina, once laps around him in terms of intelligence, and comes with enough powers and X to match every single one of Miles' abilities or gadgets. All Miles got going for him is almost insignificantly more impressive gadgets and better overall experience, but a tie in speed and agility, plus Gear Shift turning that into a non-existent factors, making it so that he can't do much of anything with those either, not before Deku pulverizes him. So he can't outsmart him, can't outpower him, can't outpace him, and can't out-X him. This is just Master Chief vs Doomsday but with superhero tints. Now with that being said, Stomp matchups can still deliver peak animations, as the last My Hero Academia episode proves just fine. There's the interaction between There's the aforementioned Spider Sense meets Danger Sense scene, Black Whip being used to counteract Venom Blast, Miles using his electric sword against Deku's 1000 punches with a big wall, Miles short-circuiting Deku's support gear, them swinging together with their respective swingy thingies, and possibly a respectful death. I'm not asking to cry or, you know, to overdo it, but just don't pull a Deku vs Asta again, please. It was so embarrassing. And both of them getting their mask ripped apart the longer the fight draws on, only for them to be fully lost by the end. That's such a cool visual in superhero media in general, and it would fit so great here. Also, Miles reacting to Deku shouting random American states can be funny too. Well, can't wait for the episode. Doing lots of other to say. Oko Krypton, hoping I made your day slightly better.